Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we've been playing a little bit of a video game and talking about how it makes us feel for the last 5 years now. That's nuts.
You
I'm
say
Sam
we, but
Just me.
it's just you have been here the whole time.
Yes.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And yeah, joining us now full time is the one, the only Trish.
Hi there.
Yeah, we accidentally, because this was not the plan, but in like reality shows where it's always like one host, and then they will be like, "Oh, well, now we're going to have a guest host every episode for a season," and then one of those hosts become the main host afterwards. That
Yes.
seems exactly what we did last year, but no, we just wanted to talk to our friends and have a year where we had people on. But because of that, when Maddie stepped down, we're like, well, we know exactly who to ask. And Trish said yes. So
I like thinking
welcome.
about it with that reality show example, though, because it means I won.
Yes.
Yes.
And especially against the other Sam, who I'm very happy to beat him at things.
Yes. So yeah, today, kicking off year 5, will be the opening bit of Bernard's auto-RPG, Skies of Arcadia. I'm probably going to say Skies of Arcadia all of the time, even though the Furigana is right there. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. But before we get started, how was everyone's week?
My week's going fairly well, I would say. I guess quick life update since the last time I was on. I believe I mentioned at one point, one of those weeks when I was covering Persona 2, my dad's been having some health issues. Because of that, fairly soon, I'm going to be moving out of California for the first time in my life. I'm going to be briefly living with my parents just for a little bit because of my dad's health issues. I'd like to be, close to him for a little bit, especially because after that, I'm going to be moving across the country and I'll be in Massachusetts. So,
Oh, wow.
that's going to be a big thing. I just put my 2 weeks notice in at my job this morning. So, yeah, that's the thing I'm kind of preparing for and working towards. Looking forward to, because my current living situation is not great. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's huge.
Other than that, I've recently managed to figure out a workaround I've had writer's block for the last couple months. And apparently what I needed to do was take a small break from my ongoing projects and do some one-shots, and apparently that fixed it.
Nice.
Yeah, I get really bad writers / DMs / office workers block and just can't do anything. And I found a similar thing that I do where I only put myself on the hook to do 2 minutes, because you can do anything for 2 minutes. And so I do it for 2 minutes, and then when it's over, I'll be like, see, that wasn't so bad. You can do 2 more. And then suddenly I've written for an hour. And
that works.
It's very
It's
similar.
like
just
the Pomodoro technique, but a cherry tomato.
yes,
that is.
Yes, the very, very tiny tomatoes. So there you go.
You bringing up DMing does make me also think of I recently been kind of drifting apart from D&D lately for a couple obvious reasons. Gesturing at Wizards of the Coast in general. So I've been doing a Monster of the Week game.
Ooh.
And it's been so good. It's just been phenomenal.
Me and Bernard, the listeners know this because it's a couple months old at this point, but me and Bernard play Lasers and Feelings every Thursday. Every Thursday asterisk. We haven't played in like 3 weeks, but we play Lasers and Feelings every Thursday, and it's fantastic. Your character has one stat, if you can even call it a stat. You pick a number between 2 and 5, and that's how you roll your characters. And your character's either good at lasers or good at feelings. And then you go and you do Star Trek adventures, and it's really, really good and a lot of
That
fun.
sounds fun. That sounds extremely fun.
Yeah, it's really good. And like I think everybody can agree with the lasers and feelings dichotomy. Like
It's very good. And if
yeah.
you want to do lasers and feelings, there's a system I've been looking forward to doing. It's another Powered by the Apocalypse
Mhm.
system like Monster of the Week that's called Thirsty Sword Lesbians, which I mean it's right in the name. This is just a system that's like, do you want to have like fun, like just like really fun adventures, but also be lesbians developing relationships with each other, and also there's swords and sword fights, and it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds great.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah, I am starting soon a Pathfinder campaign. Technically two campaigns at the same time that have a shared persistent universe that I can then Avengers assemble and put both of them together. And
Ooh.
that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm inspired by Brennan Lee Mulligan, of course, but his new podcast, Worlds Beyond Number, he purposefully isn't creating a big bad and having this grand idea of where they're going. He's basically just staying like a session or two ahead of his players and taking taking extensive notes. And his players are Abria Iyengar, Erica Ishii, and Lou Wilson, all who are fantastic. So he'll do things like basically let them DM a whole scene instead of him like being like, "Oh, so and so comes over to you. What do you do?" He just lets them start talking and talk about the things that they're doing, and we'll let them like pause and be like, "Okay, well, before what you just said happens, here's what I want to do," and then comes up with more stuff. It's like super collaborative, and so I have never finished a campaign because I'll always work really, really hard on planning out this campaign, and then no one will show up. So
Oh.
to uh help myself against that, I'm just going to design the world and the rules and everything like that, and guide people along the way. And just if Summer has a really cool idea, then we'll chase Summer's idea and go from there. The ultimate lazy DMing. And Pathfinder 2 is really cool. But this isn't Book Club Nukaseki. This isn't the podcast where we talk about board games for
You
half the time.
you say that that's the ultimate in lazy DMing, but I generally run our Lasers and Feelings campaign, and I usually come up with like one sentence. And I'm like, here, play with this sentence. And you know what? The players play with it.
Yeah.
And the game is so simple that you can sort of get away with that. I
Yeah.
love more complex systems, and I love like combat systems and stuff, but
Mhm.
I don't have it in me right now to prepare and run that shit.
Yeah.
So I just I just do Lasers and Feelings, and it's fantastic for that.
Absolutely. And it's really like role playing in its purest form, because everything is, you're not ever looking at your character sheet and saying, what can I do? You're just saying this is what I want to do, and riffing with your friends, and it's great. I specifically think our group is great because most of them haven't seen Star Trek, and they keep
Yeah.
saying like, "I wish Star Trek was more blah blah blah," not knowing that that's exactly what Star Trek is.
Oh, that's really funny.
One person said Star Trek should be horny, and I was like, you have so clearly never watched Star Trek.
Yeah.
No. Oh, gestures at the three different times they've done the plot line of weird thing makes everyone kind of horny slash like drunk, and
Mhm.
things go from there.
Gestures at the inception of erotic fan fiction.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Uh yeah, so that was what Trish has been up to. What about you, Bernard? What have you been up to this week?
Sorry for
Um,
taking so long.
It's okay.
What have I been up to? I took Wednesday off work for a trio of medical appointments. I'm fine, but I'm trying to be better than fine.
Mhm.
Um, and taking Wednesday off work is great because then like you come back, but then after 2 days you get the weekend.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
When I was at Blizzard, I did 4 10s that were 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, which means it's always either Monday or Friday. And that's amazing.
Nice.
Like, yes, you get 2 Mondays, but you get 2 Fridays, and that's worth 2 Mondays, definitely.
Hell yeah. And trying to think if anything interesting happened in my medical appointments. I managed to fill an Adderall prescription, which is not that easy these days.
It is not. One of my girlfriends just got one of those.
Yeah. So hopefully that will help me not die at work because usually at work I die.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to not do that anymore. And I also got allergy drops. They're like you put them under your tongue and then you have to not swallow for 2 minutes. And focusing on not swallowing for 2 minutes is so difficult.
Mhm.
It sounds like torture.
And but hopefully it'll help my allergies.
Oh yeah, it wasn't it you that said you turns out you've been allergic to like everything for the past like your whole life?
Actually not a ton of stuff came up on the allergy panel sheet
Mhm.
thing, whatever it's called. But like things like grass, I'm
Mhm.
allergic to.
Oh.
Trees.
So
Um,
nature.
yes. Things that are common.
Yeah.
Um, also apparently very faintly allergic to shellfish, but I would have to eat a whole lot for it to start becoming a problem, luckily.
Okay. So as long as you don't go out to all you can eat shrimp, you'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, actually like a couple days before I went in and got those results, the my work had shrimp tacos for lunch and I had some and I was fine. I
Yeah.
didn't even know I was
Nice.
eating something I was allergic to, so it's a very mild shellfish allergy.
Nice.
Mm.
Yeah. You being allergic to common things that are existence reminds me of my sister has had various health problems her whole life, but we've always been poor, so she just kind of dealt with them. And then when she became a grown up and had her own health insurance, she went to the doctor and got a allergy panel. Turns out she's allergic to basically every food, and so now she's vegan with an asterisk, like little extra vegan, because she doesn't do gluten and doesn't do a lot of other food allergies, and now like is super healthy, and her body isn't like rejecting her constantly, and it's just like, oh, turns out I shouldn't have been eating like tomatoes and eggs and cheese and all of these delicious things. Basically, pizza was killing her, and now she's fine.
Uh,
But
Glad it was as easy as simply not eating most foods.
yeah, because it's a free treatment. It's not like, oh, here you go, you have to pump insulin every day or something. It's like, just stop eating the fun stuff.
Just not even tomatoes? Oh man.
Oh.
Yeah, it's rough. All tomatoes are all the best stuff. That like no tomatoes means basically no Mexican, no Italian, just like right out, and then no ketchup. So you got all the good condiments of marinara, salsa, and ketchup are gone. So like,
If I were vegan, I'd probably just like be eating tomato slices.
yeah,
Uh, but anyway,
yeah. As for me and my week, my partner Cassie has never seen Star Wars. Her brothers watched it, and she randomly saw Rogue One in theaters. She went with friends. That's the only one that she like went to on purpose, and so she's not completely blind to it, but she doesn't really know what it's about. So we've been watching them, and we just got to Revenge of the Sith, which is amazing. And we're watching it in machete order. We weren't going to skip episode one, but she got sick, so we ended up skipping it anyways. We'll get back to it eventually. But so we just got to Revenge of the Sith, which A rules and B especially rules in the machete order because it has the what wasn't a twist at all for anyone watching it becomes a twist if the machete order is your first time watching it. Where spoilers, Luke and Leia are twins, and getting to see someone who doesn't know be surprised at that point is always super cool. And so that was on Wednesday, and then today I hung out with Cassie again. We spent the night over her place, and we did 1,500 pieces of jigsaw puzzle. We did a 1,000 piece and a 500 piece, and we just sat around doing puzzles. So I'm officially an old woman now because that's how I spent my Friday night.
It's
And
not a bad way.
it was a pretty great way, actually. We watched uh, What We Do in the Shadows television show on in the background, and it was a grand old time. But yeah, that's all I did this week.
The thing with the Star Wars actually reminds me, I did something similar
Hmm.
with an ex-partner of mine. Though I wasn't the one doing it, it was has guest hosted on this podcast, including fairly recently, other Sam slash the game
Hmm.
professor was organizing that,
Uh-huh.
which is also where he ended up meeting and kind of getting to spend time with the person that he got ended up getting married to. So that was very funny.
Nice.
But yeah, it is really wonderful seeing someone like go through that series for the first time and
Uh-huh.
experiencing like the, experiencing in such a different way from people who, like a lot of us have just grown up with it. It's just been a
Uh-huh.
fact in our lives, kind of.
Hmm. It's it's been so good. We were thinking about when we were spending the night, we were going to watch Obi-Wan because we just finished Revenge of the Sith, and Obi-Wan would be a good coda to that. But when we got there, we didn't feel like putting on like television that we had to pay attention to, so we just put on
Mm.
something funny and did a jigsaw puzzle.
Haven't seen Obi-Wan. Is it any good?
It's fantastic. I was willing to put it in her first time marathon of the series, which I wouldn't do for any of the other shows.
Oh,
But
that's surprising because I mean, I guess it makes sense tonally, but I was going to say like, I mean, I liked Mandalorian all right, but
mhm.
um, Andor to me is like personally is up there with the better of the movies of just like this is fantastic. This is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I haven't seen Andor yet, and we're not watching Rogue One as part of the thing, but I'll probably have Andor watched by next year. So our birthdays are 8 weeks apart, which is perfect because there's 8 Star Wars movies. And it's a shame they never made a ninth one. But
Yeah, exactly.
the and so we're watching one a week. And so because she was sick, we skipped episode one so that we would still finish on her birthday. But her birthday, of course, is May the 4th. So and when she told me her birthday, I was like, May the 4th be with you. And she's like, funny, I've never seen Star Wars. And I was like, well, math math be mathin', and our birthdays are 8 weeks apart. So now we have Star Wars season every year, and so for next year, I've already decided that we're going to be watching Obi-Wan for two of the nights, and if we watch Rogue One, we'll probably watch Andor right after.
Can
But
I ship the guy Andor and the guy the Mandalorian so I can call the ship Andorlorian?
yes, absolutely.
I mean, listen, one of those is Pedro Pascal, so yes, please do.
the actually contestant will let you know that the Mandalorian is about 9 in the events of Andor. So no.
Listen, time travel wonkiness. Don't worry about it.
Something something Mandalorian and Andor's Force Ghost. That's the ship. Yeah, today we're playing Skies of Arcadia, known as Eternal Arcadia in Japan, and is this our first Sega game, not counting Atlas games?
Crusader of Sinti wasn't developed by Sega, right?
No, but it was on a Sega console. So
y'all never played a Phantasy Star.
No.
I'd like to.
Yeah, and Shining Force lost for my auto by RPG. So I think this is our first like in-house Sega game. So shouts out. But Sega rules.
I love Sega.
The internal team that made this was called Overworks, which was put together from the team that would later be known as Smilebit, as well as I forget what the other team was. I didn't write it in my notes, and then I wanted to talk about it. But basically, it's the developers of Panzer Dragoon, Phantasy Star, and Soccer Wars. They all got together and make a game. Which, just hearing what Skies of Arcadia like, and I was like, well, it's kind of Panzer Dragoon meets Phantasy Star meets Soccer Wars, and that kind of tracks. So
you've got flying, you've got fantasy battles, you've got girlfriends, all the components of those.
Yes. So it was produced by Rieko Kodama, who produced Phantasy Star 1, 2, and 4, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2. The scenario writer Shuntaro Tanaka also wrote the first 2 Soccer Wars games, and the soundtrack was composed by Tatsuyuki Maeda, who made the non-Michael Jackson soundtrack for Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
When you say Soccer Wars, it sounds like you're saying Soccer Wars, and I was about to be like, there should be a super dramatic soccer RPG, but I'm pretty sure that's what Inazuma 11 is.
That's
so
exactly
this is going nowhere.
11. Yes, they should relocalize it for America instead of just for Europe, and the American one can be called Soccer Wars.
Yes.
So the team wanted to use 3D graphics for this game because everybody did at this time, but they specifically wanted to use them to have seamless transitions between the field and interiors, and to have an anime art style that showed the emotion of the characters well on their face, because they felt contemporary RPGs like the Final Fantasy didn't have any of that. They also thought that they were really dark and adult in subject matter. They wanted this game to be brightly colored and happy and about exploration, like the Dragon's Quest of yore. I made that joke 3 times in my notes. I just noticed. When it came over to America, it was rebranded as Skies of Arcadia, and the localizers Chris Lucich, Lucich, don't know how to pronounce that, and Clayton Vorlick did something that was unheard of at the time for their localization, an editing pass. The Wikipedia describes it, but this is literally how modern localizations are, which I just think is hilarious. So they did a quick and dirty Japanese translation of the game to get the plotting down. But then they deleted the Japanese script from their records and just worked off of that translated script to make their original script better. They divvied up the characters and storylines between each other and rewrote all of their lines from scratch to have the same story, but new characterization that flows like a modern like fluent English, which is hilarious. That's just what localization is these days.
I was reading the way it was translated on Wikipedia, and part of me was like, that sounds pretty normal.
Yeah.
But also part of me was like, if this game were being localized today and it were late and they explained it like that, like in an interview, like their approach to localization, imagine the shitstorm on the internet.
Absolutely.
Oh, 100%. Oh, it would be terrible. But I also, it's funny because this isn't, the chronology in my head is so off. I'm like, this isn't that far away from the years of, like Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, that method of localization where it's like, I did this in 6 days, just me.
Yeah.
I mean, Wikipedia says it was done in 4 months with 80 to 100 hour work weeks.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But it was more than just Ted Woolsey.
Yeah.
It was
It
more
was
than
more than
Woolsey.
one person.
Mm-hmm. The team was really inspired by Joss Whedon and Buffy, because who the fuck wasn't in the year 2000?
True.
But so they infused the characters with a lot of wit and charm, and punched up the script a lot to make it better and feel better in English. They, like Bernard said, the localization took 4 months, and that let them release the game just 1 month after the Japanese version, which is insane at the time. I remember waiting an entire calendar year for Pokemon games and stuff. And the fact
that is wild. I did not realize it got released that soon. That's sooner than like Final Fantasy 13, I think.
yeah, insanely quick, especially for the year 2000, and especially for a game with, it's something like
It
2000
2,000 pages on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Nuts. However, the future happened, and shortly after this game released, Sega announced that they were pulling out of the hardware market, and that they were not going to make their own stuff anymore. So they would be porting Skies of Arcadia to the PS2 and GameCube. That PS2 version ended up getting canceled, and they just focused on the GameCube version. And the producers, the people at Overworks, also made the GameCube version, so they oversaw the port. They had some help from a different team. Point of View Software came on to help them with it, but Overworks was still the main developers on it, and they consider Skies of Arcadia Legends to be the director's cut, because it has all the DLC from the Dreamcast version implemented on disc, as well as better models, a more stable frame rate, and they did gameplay tweaks to make it more fun to play.
I always heard there was a difference in the random encounter rate, which is kind of the entire reason I'm playing the GameCube version.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same here.
the encounter rate was lowered for the GameCube version. In playing it this week, I'm playing the Dreamcast version myself.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time, because I played the GameCube version when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
The encounter rate didn't seem too bad to me, but if it gets any higher later in the game, it's going to be a problem, because the battles take a long time.
Yeah,
If only I were emulating this and could speed up the battles.
yeah,
I'm
if
totally
only.
not.
But yeah, so that's a little something something about the history of the game. So let's listen to some of that sweet, sweet music, and then we'll talk about the plot of the game.
Since this is my auto buy RPG, as we call them, I figure I should say like why I chose this game.
Yeah, go for it.
Please do.
So this might have been the first JRPG that I played that did not have Pokemon or Mario in it.
Wow.
Because I was very much a Nintendo kid, and I played Pokemon Gen 1 like when it came out and loved it and played every Pokemon.
Uh-huh.
And I played Paper Mario when it came out and loved it. But I didn't really know what an RPG was.
Mhm.
I actually remember very vaguely that when I was pretty little, like 5, my parents rented a Mario game for me because it had Mario on it, and then I tried to play it, and it was really weird, and I didn't understand. And then many years later, I was retroactively like, "Oh, that weird Mario game was Super Mario RPG," and I was just a little too young to
Nice.
understand an RPG.
To be
Uh,
entirely fair to your younger self, Super Mario RPG is exceptionally weird.
Mhm.
it is. Um, I was like, "Why am I seeing Mario from up above? That's not where he is. He's from the side." Um, but yeah, I don't remember too much about my original experience with the game, but since I was a Nintendo kid, I had a GameCube, and I guess at some point my parents bought Skies of Arcadia Legends for me, and I played it so much. I actually remember that I played basically, I think where we'll get to the point that I played to next week. I played that section of the game over and over
Nice.
because there was a boss I couldn't get past, and I guess I didn't know how to grind yet. But eventually I did get past that boss, and like I was really excited. I told my friend about it, who I played the game with. Like I got past that boss, and then I played the whole game and loved it. And I uh remember it being very good. Um, I vaguely remember that you go to a lot of places inspired by real world culture, so I'm sort of worried that it's going to turn out to be racist.
I hope not.
Uh, but yeah, I loved this game a lot, and I'm excited to play it and talk about it.
Me too.
Same here.
Uh,
It's
so
the vibe of it is just something I'm loving so much. Like Sam
Mhm.
mentioned before, that when you said that the development team was specifically trying to go for something that was both more emotive in the animations and a story that was more kind of fun and lighthearted than Final Fantasy, I'm like seeing that already and being like, yes, this is delicious. Please more.
Mhm.
mhm. Yeah. One funny thing is I've known uh one Maddie Grace Webben for about like 13 years at this point, and pretty much that whole time I was like, "You should play Skies of Arcadia. I played it as a kid. It was so good. You should play it." And then it was like, our next game's gonna be Skies of Arcadia. It's finally gonna happen. Then she left the podcast.
Rip.
I
Expert
was so
dodge.
close to getting her to play Skies of Arcadia.
Watch
But
it come.
anyway.
Watch it come to light that she actually didn't take on more work at her job. She just saw that that was going to be her next game and was like, sorry guys, I can't. Something came up."
uh anyway, let's listen to more music because there's lots of good music.
So Bernard, what happens in this game?
I'm very
Uh
curious.
Well, you start the game, and there is an attract mode, which I always love calling things attract modes, even when they're on home consoles.
Mhm.
But it says, "The age of exploration has dawned upon the world of Arcadia. Brave adventurers set sail across the vast skies in search of treasures untold. And where there is treasure, there will be air pirates." And fantastic music plays. We see heroes, we see villains, we see all manner of exotic locales. We are pumped as hell to go on an adventure. And then we see the title screen, which is just blue skies and clouds and beautiful music.
Mhm.
This title screen is burned into my brain.
Mhm.
So we select new game and set sail for adventure.
Huzzah.
As you might have gathered, this whole game takes place in the sky on
Mhm.
floating land masses that float in the sky and airships that fly in the sky. So when I say a pirate ship has pulled up alongside the battleship, it's all in the sky. You know the deal.
Mhm.
So by moonlight, we see a young woman piloting a tiny one-person airship. She's pursued by a giant, scary-looking battleship. Aboard the battleship, a villain orders his men to fire concussion shells but avoid hitting her directly. They need her alive so they can question her. The young woman is knocked out by the explosions and taken aboard the battleship. The villain says the Empress will be quite pleased, but then one of his men reports that they're under attack. The villain asks who would dare attack a ship of the Imperial Armada. It's air pirates! We see a pirate ship has pulled alongside the battleship. A pair of young pirates board the ship and introduce themselves to the soldiers on the deck as the Blue Rogues, Vice and Ica. They have great character design.
Mhm.
Amazing character designs.
Yes, one thing I want to point out is uh Vice wears like an eye patch, but
Uh,
it's clear, and then it turns out later it's a telescope. He can
that's
zoom in
cool.
with it.
That's cool.
Like they made an eye patch and a telescope into one thing for these fantasy pirates. That's amazing.
Mhm. The art style is very much like Mega Man Legends,
Yes,
Oh yeah,
and
I'd agree.
that didn't occur to me because I haven't played Mega Man Legends, but from what I've seen of it, yeah.
yeah, it feels eerily like Mega Man Legends while I'm playing through it, which is great because Mega Man Legends rules.
I
Hmm.
haven't played that either, but I can, from what I've seen of it, I could definitely see that kind of similar design philosophy with the characters. The colors are kind of bright and popping. The proportions of them
Hmm.
are something that lends well to both action and emotion. Um,
Hmm.
just really, really gorgeous character designs.
Yes. Uh, so the Blue Rogues, Vice and Ica, they exchange quips, and we also meet the pirate captain, Dine. Vice calls him Dad, and Dine is quick to remind him that it's Captain when they're pirating. Dine orders Vice and Ica to head below decks and shut off the engines, so they take off. Below the decks, they run into that villain from before, who introduces himself as Alfonso, cherished son of Valua's most distinguished family, and an admiral of the Imperial Armada. There's a soldier with him carrying the unconscious young woman. Vice is like, "Who's that girl you're clearly kidnapping?" Alfonso just throws some soldiers at them and retreats. Our heroes defeat the soldiers and carry on through the first dungeon. Eventually, we see Alfonso in some sort of cargo bay area, preparing for his escape with his vice captain. Except he knocks the vice captain overboard so that he can make it the official story that he lost the ship because the vice captain betrayed him, not that he lost it in a fair fight. What a villain!
I love that moment so much. It was such a good, just like, oh, this scummy jerk.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Like they're having a lot of fun with like this is more advanced than uh like Final Fantasy 8 or 9,
Hmm.
and they have these full 3D environments, so they're able to have fun with the filmmaking here. Like
Hmm.
the vice captain is doing something, then he turns around and he looks shocked, but we can't see what he's shocked by. and then
Mhm.
then we cut to outside the ship and he's falling. They're having a lot of fun with it.
Oh yeah.
So Vice and Ica show up and tell Alfonso that they've taken control of the ship, that they're taking the mysterious young woman with them, and that he sucks shit. Alfonso's like, whatever, fight this boss. A giant fucked up war beast, which is named Antonio for some reason, enters the cargo bay.
It's
Uh,
so weird.
it has such a normal name.
I showed someone a picture of it while I was fighting it. I'm like, what is this?
I don't know. But for the first boss, it's actually kind of hard.
Yeah.
It is. It is. There was a point where it's like, is this a fight I'm supposed to lose? And then I was like, oh wait, no, I can heal for a lot, so I feel like I can get through this. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So question about this thing. Is your position important but you just can't control it? So,
If I remember correctly, later like there's some position is important in this section, and it gets more important later. Is my memory.
okay.
So it's kind of like Chrono Trigger in that way. Like
Yes.
yeah, like positioning can matter, but you're not in control of that. Your characters are just gonna move how they move.
Okay.
If I recall correctly, I think both bosses this time have like an attack that does like a line.
Yeah.
Well,
But no,
and Eika's super move with the boomerang is also a line
right.
attack.
Yes. But yeah, you can't directly control their movement,
Okay.
which is interesting.
It's interesting, and I kind of enjoy that it means that like while you're like trying to select things or like while the turns are happening, the characters are still moving around and doing things. Like they have animations going to make it feel like it's not just a static turn kind of fight. Instead, it gives the feeling of, oh no, they're still fighting. This is just the actions being done are the important bits.
Yes, I was going to bring that up later, but we'll bring it up now. Yeah, when you're fighting, when you're in a turn-based battle, like when it's not Vice's turn, Vice will just be like next to the enemy he previously attacked, and they'll just be like swinging at each other, but like dodging the attacks and stuff.
Mhm.
It's fantastic. And I can't think of another RPG that does that.
I know Wild Arms 3 has some stuff. I don't know if they do attacks or just like running around and doing stuff. I haven't played that one in a long time, but I remember they don't just stand there in between turns.
Question. This is vaguely related to Skies of Arcadia. Is the cowboy theming, is the cowboy theming more present in later Wild Arms games than it is in Wild Arms 1?
Yes. So Wild Arms 1 and 2 are like Wild West, but a lot more steampunk RPG-ness. Wild Arms 3 is very, very cowboy. Wild Arms 4, I haven't played. My impression of it is kind of sci-fi, and then Wild Arms 5 is back to very cowboy.
Okay. I asked because I realized playing this week that this game has very strong pirate Age of Exploration theming,
Mhm.
and I was sort of expecting that level of theme when I played Wild Arms 1, which I didn't finish even though it's good.
Yeah.
But Wild Arms 1, the cowboy theme is very light, and I feel it was sold too hard as being a cowboy game
Yeah.
rather than just a good RPG,
Yeah.
and I was disappointed.
Yeah, it is. So the most cowboy of all of them is either 3 or the PSP game. But
Mm-hmm.
the the like in like even in 1 you have people like in dust jackets, and everyone is drifters that go from town to town, and everything is like frontier town, but there is still like ancient technology golems and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
uh Wild Arms 3 is definitely four cowboy motherfuckers hanging out, going on an adventure.
Hell yeah. Anyway, we're talking about pirate game though.
Yeah.
So we defeat Antonio, and Alfonso escapes and tells Vice that he'll rue the day he stood against the Valuan Empire and all that. Vice and Ica are mad that they didn't get to murder Alfonso, but they're pretty happy with having stolen a giant battleship loaded with expensive goods. They wonder who this mysterious girl is. What's with her weird clothing? Where is she from? Why was Valua after her? Who can say? So we see a weird sci-fi looking place, and a graphical filter, which is apparently difficult to emulate, informs us that this is a flashback. This graphical filter did not work on Flycast, and it was just one scene, so I wasn't about to try and get it working.
Mhm.
This game is hard to emulate, it turns out. I had to mess with settings a lot to get it working on Flycast.
Oh,
No, I didn't have any
weird.
issues with this scene on the GameCube version. The only
Yeah.
issues I've really had with the emulation has been, for some reason, the GameCube USB controller I use. Whenever I hit the start button on it, it asks if I want to close the window,
That's
which
weird.
I really don't know why it's doing that, and I would wish it would stop because I have to hit start every time I open up the game again.
Uh
And I
the
will say, yeah, I'm emulating. We're emulating. Deal with
yeah,
it. If Sega, if you make this game available to purchase, I will buy it day one.
Oh,
absolutely.
same.
Please.
I'm playing on the Steam Deck, and the only problem I have is that Dolphin is really, really good at making widescreen hacks, like better than most of the other ones. And they do that by making 2D UI elements not stretch, but are based like on their relative position. And these sorts of flashback and sun flare effects are made with bitmaps that now don't stretch to feel the screen. So every time the sun shines, I just get a big yellow square in the middle of my screen, which is fantastic.
Nice.
But
Anyway,
flashback.
we
Flashback.
get flashes of someone named Fina talking to someone she calls Elder. And fun fact, and I do not want y'all to go back and look at this scene again to see what I mean, but from the very little I remember of this game, I can tell you that there is a massive spoiler deftly hidden in plain sight in this scene. Neat.
Ooh, I love that.
So the mysterious girl wakes up to Vice and Ica leaning over her, staring right at her while she sleeps because they're normal. Vice tells her she's aboard their ship, the Albatross, and that the Valuan narcs aren't around, so she'll be safe. The mysterious girl introduces herself as Fina and asks what an air pirate is. Ica's like, how the fuck do you not know what an air pirate is? Vice explains that they're sailors who attack other ships and steal their cargo, but it's okay. We are blue rogues, noble pirates who only attack narcs. To quote Vice, we rob from the rich and keep the gold, but we use the gold to save people that need our help.
More
And
pragmatic version of a Robin Hood situation.
yes, I like it. The other pirate faction is the Black Pirates, who will attack any ship in the sky. Vice assures her that they're not kidnapping her and that they're cool. It sort of works. Vice is called up to the bridge for a tutorial. Vice Captain Briggs teaches us how to fly the ship, and we set sail for Pirate Isle. Pirate Isle is this perfectly innocuous floating island with a tiny village atop it. But as the Albatross approaches, a giant chunk of the island opens up to allow the ship to fly into its hollow interior, where the pirate's base is, and we're like, whoa, that's cool. You can't do that on the Super Nintendo, baby. Vice and Ica are ready to give Fina a tour of the place, but Dine calls him to his office and says to bring the girl. As soon as they arrive, Dine starts grilling Fina. He says he's never seen anyone wearing clothes like hers, and he needs to know if her presence poses any danger to his people. He asks her what her deal is. She says that while she is very grateful for their help, she cannot tell any living soul about the purpose of her quest, even if it means sacrificing her own life. Dine's like, good enough. Vice and Aika take Fina topside to give her a tour of the village, except Aika immediately heads off on her own for mysterious girl reasons. Vice shows Fina around, including introducing her to his mother. And that's right, this JRPG protagonist has not one, but two parents.
You love to
Shock
see it.
and gasp.
And they're both present in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So Aika shows up and says they should go up to Lookout Island and watch the sunset while they wait for Vice's mom to finish cooking dinner. Lookout Island is a tiny bit of land floating high above Pirate Isle, and you have to climb a fantastically long ladder to get there. It's wonderful. I love this ladder climb so much.
Oh, same.
The three watch the sunset in a very romantic scene. And you might say, but don't romantic scenes usually involve just two characters? And I say, buddy, look at the North American box art for the Dreamcast version of this game. The romanticness definitely goes three ways here.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely polyamorous feeling, and I love it.
Yes. I don't know how much of that is really present in the game because I don't remember and I didn't know what that was when I was little. But we'll see. So as they're up there watching the sunset, they see something fall from the sky and hit a nearby island. It must be a moonstone. Aika's like, moonstones are pieces of rock which fall from the moons, and a powerful energy source used to power airships and make weapons. Fina's like, yeah, I know what a moonstone is. I'm not that naive. Vice and Aika decide to go get the moonstone tomorrow. So they have dinner and go to bed. The next day, Fina thanks Vice for his family's hospitality, and Dine gives us a tutorial on the game's element system, which is tied into its moon lore. So basically, there are 6 elements, and you can freely, during battle, change the element of your weapon, and which element you have active during battle affects which spells you learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty neat.
It's very neat.
And not overly complicated, in my opinion. Which
oh yeah,
is
definitely
always nice.
And I love like getting a new dork to fight, and you're like, okay, well, let me try green. Oh, that only hits you for 1 damage. You're resistant against green. Well, let's try purple. Hell yeah, you just took 80 damage. Fuck you.
And
I feel
great.
cool.
It's great because you don't end up in a battle where, Vice is on red and Aika's on green, and this guy is resistant to red and green. Guess this is gonna be an 80-minute battle.
No, you could just press
switch.
a button.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Vice and Aika say goodbye to Fina and head off to the nearby Shrine Island on a tiny boat. They arrive at Shrine Island and have a straightforward dungeon with fantastic graphics and music.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's some sort of ancient temple from the, quote, old world, unquote, and it's really cool. Eventually they reach the moonstone, which fell into the center of the temple, but some sort of ancient guardian golem thing activates. Time for a boss fight. It is, again, fairly difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
Like the other one was difficult because it had the opportunity to hit one of your characters for like 150 damage, and you only had like 500. Well, you've leveled up, so you only have like 700. So it deals like 500 damage. And if you're not all the way healed to full, every time it's like charging up my attack, you're dead.
Mhm.
I'm also wondering if when they reduced the encounter rate for the GameCube version, if they changed any other numbers, or if it's like you're getting less incidental grinding but you still have to fight battles at the same difficulty. I'm wondering if that's a thing.
I don't know. I do
I
know
don't know either.
the only hack for this game on romhacking.net is a difficulty patch because they think it's not difficult enough. So
Okay, I might lightly want to throw hands at those people.
Again, I do not remember much from playing this game in my childhood, but I do not remember thinking, this is too easy. I remember getting to a boss I couldn't beat.
Yeah. So we'll keep checking in to see if this game is too easy or just right.
So Vice and Ica defeat the boss and do an awesome secret handshake.
It's very cool.
They get ready to load up the Moonstone and head home. Meanwhile, back on Pirate Isle, the lookout spots ships from the Imperial Armada approaching. They're under attack. Dine is ordering people to take refuge underground, and he spots a flag on one of the ships, which he recognizes as meaning that it's Galcian's flagship. We cut into the flagship to Galcian, who is a daddy, and his henchman Ramirez, who is a twink. Galcian muses that this village seems very well organized, and they must have a capable leader. He orders Ramirez to capture the girl, as well as all the air pirates. They'll need to question them back in Valua.
Assuming Ramirez becomes important and shows up again later, I just want you to know that he has basically the exact same vibe and everything as Haseo from .hack GU.
He does look like Haseo. I was about to say good times, but were they good?
There were
good times in there.
There were like 45 straight minutes of good times across the 90 hours that we played that game.
So yeah, he says to capture all the pirates so they can question them back in Valua and also destroy their ship. Ramirez asks what to do if they resist. Galcian says he doesn't think they're foolish enough to resist, but if they do, burn the village and kill them all. Let the bodies rot in the sun and leave one of our flags to set an example for others who may defy us. What a villain! Anyway, our happy-go-lucky heroes pack up the Moonstone and set sail back to Pirate Isle. They find the village ruined and vacant. And I find this interesting. There is no cutscene of them being like, whoa, do you see the village in the distance? What's going on? You just show up there and you're just in the village and you assume their reaction. But anyway, they head below ground where they find the village's women and children. Vice's mother explains that the Imperial Armada attacked out of nowhere, and Dine, knowing it would be a hopeless fight, surrendered. The Valuans captured all the air pirates, and Fina too. Ica says in Valua, the punishment for piracy is death. She asks Vice what they're going to do. Vice says, what do you think? We're going to save them all. Fantastic music plays. We are all filled with determination. We cut to Galcian's flagship, which a title card says is called the Serpent. A soldier escorts Fina to Galcian. Galcian greets her by name, which surprises her. He introduces himself as the sworn protector of Valua and supreme commander of the Imperial Armada. He says he is under direct orders from Her Royal Highness, Empress Theodora, to find Fina and bring her back to Valua. As a citizen of the Silver Civilization, Fina has information that is of great importance to them. Fina remains silent. Galcian says he did not expect her to help them so easily, but that he believes they have the same goals, so it would be for the best if they helped each other. Back on Pirate Isle, the village children see Vice and Ica off. They promise to help rebuild the village while they're gone. Vice and Ica set sail in their tiny boat and make their way towards Valua and adventure.
I keep wanting to hum Dart's theme from Legend of Dragoon, which fits the vibe a lot. Every time you were like, and they set off to adventure, I was like, or whatever.
Discord just totally cut that out for some reason.
Cool.
Discord hates fun.
It was our theme song for a little bit because our original theme song we decided to stop using, but we didn't have an idea yet, so we used Dart's theme. All right, so let's listen to a little more music that's not Dart's theme, and then we'll talk about our memorable moments. right, so both of mine were already brought up, but I guess I will generalize them to just these graphics, man.
They're so
The
good.
the leaning over while she wakes up, fantastic. There's one part where Ica hasn't shown up yet, and they're like, "You stupid idiot, you're out numbered." And Vice like looks to the side where Ica's about to come in, and like just his eyes looking to the side was just fantastic. And then of course the secret handshake of the "we just did an adventure together" was so good.
Yeah, it's interesting the way the faces are done in this game because it's like, in the PlayStation Final Fantasies, like you didn't have facial expressions.
Mm-hmm.
Things weren't detailed enough to facilitate that. And then in like Final Fantasy X, you had like 3D modeled faces.
Uh-huh.
But here they're like textures, just the eyes
Mm-hmm.
and mouth are like textures slapped on the face. And there's just a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they mix and match them and do great stuff with them.
And the camera, the quote unquote camera angle as well, is used so much for focusing on like the expressions or focusing on specific movements as a way to tell the story or tell their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of camera work, which I don't think I ever fully appreciated for how big a deal it must have been in the year 2000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what other memorable moments do you guys got?
I wasn't expecting this, but mine are kind of more, at least two of them at least are very gameplay focused. Um, one being I find it interesting partially because, like Bernard, I'm a big fan of the Paper Mario franchise. And that's kind of given me, by franchise I mean the first two games, that's really given me a love for smaller units when it comes to RPG numbers, and has
Yes.
kind of made me feel like, so many games having, you know, like early Final Fantasy games, it's like, oh cool, I leveled up or put on a new equipment. I went from doing 35 damage to 42 damage, and it's like that doesn't feel like anything. That means nothing compared to, in say a Paper Mario game, going from doing 2 damage to 3 damage. The fact that the units are smaller means that changes feel bigger. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was at first a little like, wow, I'm starting this game and my characters start with like 400 plus health. Okay, this is oh, this is wild as a place to start with. And every level up, the amount of stuff you get that buffs up is huge. But then I started to notice. It took me a while to actually notice it. The fact that the MP is then so small that you only have like 4 to 6 MP total to use, and all spells take 1 MP, and then you have the SP resource that is used for spells and your super moves. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's really weird. I don't know what I feel about it yet. It does mean grinding feels a lot more dangerous to do, just because it's like
Uh-huh.
you're gonna burn through your healing items, and you don't want to use any of your spells because that's such a finite resource.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, spells are you got to be careful with how you use your spells.
Mm-hmm. Uh, in a different direction, my second one is just uh when you're in the hangar area when you first get back to Pirate Island, there's some secret stuff you can find there, and as if you just go to leave, which is really easy to go straight to the exit if you want to. There's a guy there who will say something when you go to leave about like, oh hey, just so you know, there are a couple things scattered here that no one's gotten to. If you wanted to look around and find those, which I appreciate not only as a like, oh hey, here are these goodies, but I feel like it's a quick thing of like the game telling you, hey, you can investigate and find secrets in the environment, and you should be looking for these things because there are good
Mm-hmm.
rewards there. And similarly, when you're out amongst the town and kind of exploring, there are a bunch of kids there doing a hide and seek game that you can do with them. which similarly it feels like it's a way to get you to pay more attention to the town, to the layout, and to the idea of like I'm going to have to actually look for things because there's so many games that are just like I'm just going to point where everything is to you. And then my third thing is much more simple, which is just whenever you use a spell, the characters say "moons give me strength," which I really just want to incorporate into my normal vocabulary as like a this is really difficult. Just
Moons give
moons
me
give me
strength.
strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those are mine.
I remember now that at one point I played this game with some acquaintances who were younger than me, like mothers, friends, kids of some sort. And one of them just called magic moons give me strength. So it'd be like, oh, you should use moons give me strength here.
It's really
Uh
good.
which it was pretty good. Um yeah, we haven't gotten too much into the moons, but the moons are a whole thing. There's a lot of them,
Yeah.
more than we have IRL.
I mean, I love that in a fantasy setting. Stormlight Archive with Roshar has 3. There's a lot of fun things you can do in fantasy with extra moons.
Mm-hmm.
Or no moon. You can also make your fantasy setting more interesting with not having a moon at all. I would gesture at what series I'm talking about, but I think doing so is kind of a spoiler.
Oh.
Cool.
What else? I I was glad to hear that y'all enjoyed this part of the game. Because I was like, oh no, what if this game I liked actually suck ass?
Yeah.
Ugh, I know that feeling.
But I was playing and I was like, I have a lot of nostalgia for this, but I'm pretty sure it rules.
Yeah. It definitely rules. I've been wanting to play it basically forever because it looked really cool. I also was a GameCube kid. I also had a PS2, but I played a lot on my GameCube, and I had already beaten Tales of Symphonia, so I was out of RPGs on the GameCube, and I wanted another one, but I never got around to it. But then when I can't remember their real name, their um, Twitter handle is TransGamerThink, but I can't remember their real name right now. But they wrote a novelization of this game, and that made me extremely want to play it. For someone to love it so much that they write a novelization of the game.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
was a Nintendo kid as well. I have actually still never owned a non-Nintendo console.
Nintendo's pretty good.
And I could just emulate the things that aren't Nintendo.
mhm.
I feel like I had more things I wanted to say about this, but we already talked about some of them.
If you want to read that novelization, it's called To the Horizon by Dreamcastaway on Archive of Our Own. There are a few things that I would love as much to make a novelization out of them, and I think all of them own. So knowing that there's someone else that wanted to do the same thing for this game made me really excited to play it.
It's so funny that you're bringing that up because I just looked on AO3. I was like, oh, I wonder how oh, yep, the thruple shipping tag is very big on here. And I had like searched by kudos, and the top kudos fic is that one.
Yeah.
Oh, 223,000 words. That's a lot.
Yeah. I think that'll do it, unless anyone has anything else to say.
The graphics are so good. The music
They're
is so
so
good.
good.
You might wonder why I'm playing the Dreamcast version, dear listener. It's because apparently the music is better on the Dreamcast version. The Dreamcast was on 2 GD ROMs, and the GameCube was on 1 mini DVD, and 2 GD ROMs is bigger than 1 mini DVD. So they apparently had to compress the music, and also apparently like some of the tracks will have like missing MIDI instruments, I think I heard.
No.
It's annoying.
I don't know. It's weird. But that's the main reason I'm playing the Dreamcast one, and also because I never played that one before, except, I forgot to mention, I did play the Dreamcast version on an actual Dreamcast. I never like beat it that way, but I did play like the opening on a Dreamcast. And one thing I loved about it is that before when a random battle's about to happen, the Dreamcast will start chugging. You know how a Dreamcast makes that sound?
Mm-hmm.
It'll start doing that before a battle. And so, one, it gives you a warning that a battle's about to happen, which makes random battles less annoying, it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And two, I didn't figure this out myself, but apparently, while the Dreamcast is chugging, you can open the menu and like heal if you'd forgotten to heal or whatever.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's good.
I love it, and I wish I could somehow emulate Dreamcast CD spinning sounds.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a feature in emulators.
It
Uh-huh.
really should.
Like that PlayStation 3 emulator, you should be able to. I guess you could just turn on a big fan, like a box fan, but they should just have a box fan dot MP3 built into the emulator that you can turn on.
Uh-huh. But yeah, this game rules, and I can't wait to play more of it. Because like Final Fantasy VII also rules, but very rarely do we get to just play a game that's fun on this podcast. Most of that is our listeners' fault. We're like, should we play a fun game or should we get shot in each foot daily for the next month? And they always pick being shot. Um, but this time around, they wanted us to have just a fun, relaxing, polyamorous time in the sky, and I'm excited to continue
Excuse me,
with that.
you did not inform me of the getting shot in the foot part when I took this job.
Too bad.
Was that the fine print?
Yes.
I mean,
Uh,
y'all are the ones who chose to put those games in the blocks.
It's true, but uh we didn't know Septericor was going to be as frustrating as it was.
Also,
Uh
you make it sound like it was Septericor, this awful game, versus Anachronox, this wonderful game.
Anachronox was at least mostly fun to play. It just
Yeah, Anachronox, I'm sure, is better, but it's not like it's great.
no. But yeah, Septericor was definite 14 weeks of the hardest this podcast has ever been. 'Cause it's like, oh, we need to play enough of this game to have something to talk about. But this dungeon is like 10 hours long, and that's if you're using a guide. And Maddie famously does not use guides, and so went the wrong way and had to do the giant dungeon like twice, which is just bad.
oh,
But
oh.
yeah, I really, I despite saying that it's torture, I still stand by if someone remade Septericor in like RPG Maker, not even anything necessarily good. If they just took out the technical issues and made it an RPG Maker, it would be like solid B plus RPG. But the technical issues just make it real bad.
Yeah, no, I'm very much enjoying this game. I'm very happy to finally be playing it. And yeah, it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's a good romp, and I don't want to insult Persona 2. Doing Persona 2 is fun, but this feels like it's going to be more actual fun.
Yes.
Yeah, Persona 2 is a little. It's a little. The battles are a little tough.
Yeah.
The Persona system's a little tough.
Yeah. I especially didn't like the Persona system in number 2.
Yeah, and also that final dungeon. It was just it's so long.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, if you want to go and torture us and shoot us in the foot, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where you can donate to help us pay for hosting costs and game costs and the current bane of my existence, Adobe subscription costs. In return for your donations, you can join one of three tiers. We have the Gadabout tier, which is everyone who pays $1 or more a month. This gives you access to our Book Club no Koseki episodes a month before everyone else and lets you vote on our polls whenever they go live. The Warrior tier is for everyone who pays $5 or more a month, which also gets your name shouted out at the end of every episode, much like this. Shoutouts to Floris, Kildron, Freddie Rodriguez, Aaron524, Vimk, Jfro Prime, and Doho. And then finally, our Luminary tier is for everyone who loves us so much that they pay us $20 or more a month. And they also get a one-sentence shout out to either shout out one of your socials or to just make me say whatever you want. So shout out to Eliza Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, which is an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. And also shout outs to Carr, who is a dentist. So he isn't shouting out his Twitch stream, but your own mouth. He says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm Trisha Eve.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye.